Have you ever wondered why we are more intimidated by success than failure? At first glance, it sounds ridiculous. It seems like everyone dreams of winning, recognition, to be heard, to be noticed, to be recognized. But as you get closer to that moment, to real success, something inside freezes. There's an anxiety you can't explain, a tightness in your chest. You want to hide, take a step back. That's what happened to me. It took me a long time to realize what was wrong with me. Why do I keep slowing myself down at the most important moment? Why is it that when the opportunity, the chance, the path, why do I hesitate, slow down, retreat? One day I decided to look into this feeling. Not to run away from it, just to ask myself honestly, what exactly am I afraid of? The answer was surprising. I wasn't afraid of failing. I was afraid of succeeding. When I was 18, I dreamed of changing the world. Seriously, I carried dozens of ideas in my head. I believed I could do more than just live according to plan. I wrote lyrics. I recorded videos. I dreamed. I saw myself on stages, imagined my words meant something. Not to everyone, but to someone. People around me were supportive. They'd say, "You're doing great." They nodded. They clapped me on the shoulder. But when it came to the real step, the big call, the big publication, the first chance, I froze. I'd get anxious, as if someone in my chest was pressing stop. I would suddenly stop responding to messages. I'd put the project on hold. I'd start having doubts. I thought it was just laziness or stage fright. Maybe I'm just not ready. But it happened over and over again. As soon as I got to the edge where everything could change, I'd back off. It happened in many different forms. I didn't send out a portfolio. I didn't audition. I made excuses. Sometimes I even made myself sick, so I wouldn't make a move. One day I turned down an invitation I'd been dreaming about for 2 years. I just didn't go. No reason. And then I sat in an empty room and stared at the ceiling. I felt as if something inside me was stirring, like there's two parts of me, one that wants growth, change, success, and the other part is afraid and pulls me back. I began to ask myself, why? Why am I so afraid to move forward? What is wrong with me? The answer didn't come immediately. It was deeply hidden. But one day in the silence, it came. You're afraid to succeed. Consciousness. When I first thought that phrase out loud, I'm afraid I'm going to make it, it sounded absurd. What does it mean to be afraid of success? Isn't that what we all strive for? But the longer I thought about it, the more I realized success isn't just joy. It's about change, and change is scary, even if it's for the better, because success is more than applause and likes. It's more than money or recognition. Success is a challenge. It demands that you stand up, show up, withstand the attention, accepted responsibility. When you're successful, you can no longer hide behind phrases like, "I could have, but it didn't work out. It wasn't my time. I didn't try hard enough." Success is the moment when you can no longer pretend that you haven't really started yet. You've started. You've stepped into the light, and now you're being looked at. And that's scary, because the light shows everything. Your strengths, and your fears, and your weaknesses that you've been so careful to hide. You become vulnerable, and we humans are most afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid of not being accepted, that if we step forward, we'll be ridiculed, that we'll lose love, that we'll be strangers amongst our own. And that fear is telling you in a subtle way, stay here, in the shadows. It's safe. Yes, you'll complain that it's not like this, that things could be better, but no one's going to point a finger at you. No one's going to raise the bar. No one expects more from you. You'll stay in your comfort zone, albeit with a dream that never came true. Sabotage. When I realized I was afraid of success, I began to notice I was sabotaging my life. Not loudly, not explicitly. I wasn't saying, "I don't want this." No, I was saying, "Now is not the time. I need to get ready. I haven't gotten enough sleep. I got to get my room, my head, my life in order first." I saw others getting ahead, and I thought, I can do it too, just later. I began to notice a pattern. Whenever there was a real opportunity, I would take a step back. I took a step back, voluntarily, but under the guise of rationality. I'd get invited to meetings, I'd forget. Doors opened, I didn't go in. I could make a move, I paused. Not for a day, for months, sometimes for years. I remembered not sending letters even though the text was ready. I remembered not calling, even though the number was in my favorites. I'd find 100 reasons not to start, even though I was burning inside. I want to, I can, do it. That's sabotage. He's not yelling. It's whispering. He's convincing you that you're not ready, that you have to wait, that the risk is too great. And the closer I got to success, the louder those whispers got. One day I got a text message. "We want you on the project. You're a perfect fit. We need to discuss tomorrow." And you know what I did? I deleted that message, like it never happened. And then I spent the whole night going over in my head, why did I do that? I was ashamed. But more than that, I was scared, because it meant I'm not a victim of circumstance. I am my own biggest inhibitor. And that was the most painful truth of all. Change of perspective. Real change didn't start with a book, not with someone else's advice, and not with a sudden epiphany. It started with a question. I asked it to myself at the very moment when I was once again faced with an important choice, and I wanted to run away again. What if you don't have to be perfect to be successful? That question struck like a bolt of lightning, because up until then, I thought that success is when you're perfect, when you don't make mistakes, not afraid, always confident, when you're in control. But that's a myth. A lie that we somehow believe. I've started revisiting the stories of people I admire, and you know what I saw? They were falling. They doubted, made mistakes, some more than me, but they kept going, not because of any particular confidence, but because they chose to keep going, even with trembling legs. I began to change my thinking, not all at once, slowly. Instead of asking myself, what if it doesn't work? I started asking, what if it does? What if I'm accepted not in spite of my weaknesses, but with them? What if my non-ideality is my strength? What if someone is looking at me right now and that's what they're looking for? Not a shiny image of a perfect person, but an honest example of someone who walks the walk, even when it's scary. And that's when success stopped being a monster. It became a route, long, difficult, with twists and turns, but not the end point, but the road. I've lived my life differently ever since. I haven't become superhuman. The fear hasn't disappeared. It hasn't gotten easy, but it has become honest. I know now that if I feel like running away, it means I'm close. It means I'm on the verge of something important again. It means I'm growing. And at times like this, I don't yell to myself, pull it together. I just say, I'm here. I can feel it. I'm coming. I'm not going for perfection. I'm going for the real me, albeit with mistakes. I may not be sure, albeit with a hitch in my voice and sweaty palms, but I'm going. And if you're somewhere on the edge right now, if you're standing in front of a door and you can't push the handle, listen to me. You're not alone. You're not weak. You're not a coward. You're just a man who stepped outside the box. You've felt you can do more, and that's scary, but that's the journey. Success isn't about always being brave. It's about being honest with yourself, with your desires, with your fear. Don't run. Stay. Breathe. Take one step. And even if your knees shake, go trembling, because you're worthy, because you have already begun, because it's not fear is not fear. It's fire. What are you most afraid of right now?